At 1:03 a.m., the door shook like a warning. Marion Blake crossed the dark hallway, feet whispering on old pine boards, and unlatched the chain. Harper collapsed into her, a gasp, knuckles scraped, lips split, one eye blooming purple beneath the porch light. "Tyler," Harper breathed. "Because of Crystal." The phone case slid from her fingers and cracked on the threshold. Marion caught her weight and turned the deadbolt closed. Kitchen towel, pressure, lamp on, shadows driven back. Metallic tang on the towel, clock ticking between shallow breaths. No speeches, no questions. She moved. Harper's coat was torn at the shoulder, a seam raked, shoe tread stamped with river mud. Marion eased her onto the sofa, propped her with pillows, checked pupils. She opened the camera, framing the split lip with the brass clock, timestamp glowing. If you're watching on Crimson Heirs, tap like, hit subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. This is one of those family revenge stories that travel farther than anyone thinks. And if you live for family drama stories, stay close. On the coffee table, a chipped mug, tea gone cold, a folded sweater, a pair of reading glasses like a beetle. Outside, cicadas, distant motorcycles on Victory Drive, the hush before another train. Harper curled a hand over her abdomen and flinched. Her other hand shook, then stilled against the sofa seam. Marion drew the curtains. She keyed the front light to steady. She cleaned the mouth, changed towels, counted softly to 4, then 3, then 2. The air smelled of lemon, starch, and the faint hint of rain. Crystal. The name hung like a nail in wood. Marion set the phone by the first aid kit, squared her shoulders, and looked at the hallway switch. The hallway light hummed, the house alert, boards held breath, pictures straightened in frames as Marion weighed steps, tools, and the clock's rhythm. Plan time, now. Marion guided Harper deeper into the house, the hallway light steady on picture frames and a school pennant. She slid the chain, set the deadbolt, drew the curtains twice. Fabric whispered, blocking the porch. The quail clock ticked in neat pairs. The kitchen still carried lemon and black tea and mint. On the rug, a small crescent of mud marked where Harper's heel had dragged. Marion set a towel under it, then arranged 2 pillows, shoulder to hip, so Harper could lie without folding onto the bruise. She cleaned the mouth again, fresh towel, firmer pressure, counting softly the way she did before assemblies. 4, 3, 2. The brass clock stayed in the frame. The camera captured split lip plus timestamp. She checked pupils with the pen light from the junk drawer, left, right, follow. She wrote on a sticky note and stuck it to the fridge. 1:17 a.m. Alert, no vomiting. A second note listed water, acetaminophen, and the ER address. She squared the edges of the notes and aligned the magnet straight. Around them, the drip in the sink, the ceiling fan's thin whir, a train horn layered under cicadas. Harper's fingers found the sofa seam and held, then loosened. Marion set a bottle of water, gauze, the first aid kit, and a folded blanket within reach. Crimson Heirs shares family drama stories that start as porch whispers and sometimes grow into family revenge stories. The house's cadence seemed to agree. The phone on the table woke, a square of light. One missed call. The short buzz cut the quiet. The screen brightened again, a square on the table. Preview text slid up. "Open your mouth and lose everything. T." Marion silenced the buzz, set the phone on airplane mode, Wi-Fi off, and placed it beside the first aid kit. Fresh towel, new pressure, a rinse of salt water, a second photo with the brass clock in frame. She switched to video, 10 seconds of shallow breaths and the fan's soft whir. Save. Album locked. Titles neat. 0103 a lip, 0118 abdomen. Harper's hand braced her abdomen when Marion checked for guarding. Pupils tracked, numbers were counted. The torn coat sleeve shed a thread on the cushion, one nail broken to the quick. On a note by the fridge, Marion added, 1:35 a.m. Alert, no vomiting. Underlined. The tote bag opened on the chair. Wallet with insurance card, charger, acetaminophen, a clean hoodie. Keys, phone, ID, a folded copy of Memorial Health's address. Marion shot another still, split lip with timestamp and the quail clock's beak at 23. Outside, a dog barked once and a train lifted its horn across the marsh. Inside, Harper's breath evened to short, repeatable counts. Marian dialed 911, gave the street, the injuries, and wrote, "No food, keep upright." The operator's voice clicked steady. The call log recorded the minute. She closed the tote, wiped the floor's small crescent of mud, and guided Harper upright with a blanket over shoulders. Through the window glass, red light pulsed along the oaks like distant tide. The bell sounded twice, quick and clipped, and the hallway light steadied for the door. Red strobes slid across the oaks as the bell sounded twice. Paramedics rolled a stretcher through the doorway. Marian cleared the coffee table, handed over the tote, and cited the time. 1:03 a.m., split lip, abdominal guarding. Harper gripped the blanket edge when they lifted her shoulders. The stretcher clicked into the ambulance. Doors shut. The cabin smelled of antiseptic and vinyl. A medic wrapped the cuff, read out vitals. BP 130/82, pulse 98. And pressed electrodes along the collarbone. Another secured an IV. Marian kept the insurance card visible. At Memorial Health, doors hissed. Triage lights made the room pale. A nurse banded Harper's wrist. MRN, name, arrival time. She scraped a pen across a clipboard, tore a sticker for labs, and pulled the curtain with a zip. Marian stood where the wall clock stayed in frame. The physician palpated along the ribs and upper abdomen. Deep breath. A monitor beeped. Oxygen traced green. Orders went in, chest x-ray, abdominal films, CT, if indicated. The nurse logged pain scale, then fetched a small cup for a rinse. Marian photographed the split lip with the wall clock behind, then scanned the wristband, the vital sheet, and the intake page. She requested names and badges, RN Patel, MD Soto, and a note line reading, possible domestic assault. Release of information forms rustled, consent signatures landed with precise times. A printer coughed out an after-visit summary placeholder, a stamped envelope filled with copies. For viewers of Crimson Heirs, many family drama stories hinge on paperwork, the spine that holds together certain family revenge stories. They wheeled Harper toward radiology. Marian checked the folder's seal, the call log, and hour. Records secured. Only one public act from Tyler remained to stitch the chain. Dawn slid through the blinds as Marian eased the door and shouldered it shut. The stamped ER envelope sat under her palm like a sealed brick. Harper moved to the sofa, the wristband still snug. The house held the night's shape, curtains drawn, cups where they had been, the clock 5 minutes on, and the air faintly iodine. She set coffee to drip, squared the envelope, and cleared the table. A binder slid from a drawer, rings opening with a small sigh. Tabs waited, ER, photos, messages, calls, witness. She labeled in black block letters, sliced the seal, and fed wristband, vitals, intake to the scanner. The hum held steady. File names stacked in order. On the laptop, she merged images to a single PDF and set a password. She copied the folder to a USB, then to a palm-sized drive. One went into the freezer behind peas, one under board minutes. Airplane mode stayed on, location sharing off. Find My armed. A hidden album held medical. She opened a document titled Incident Log. Columns formed a grid: time, event, evidence, witness. Lines filled from notes: 1:03 a.m., door impact and collapse, photos with clock, 1:35, threatening preview, screenshot, 2:05-4:10, ER procedures, RN Patel, MD Soto, orders and imaging. A short voice memo captured exact phrasing for later. She dialed the county domestic violence line and set the phone on a pot holder. A caseworker gave a checklist: safety plan, spare keys, neighbor signal, go bag, steps for a protective order. Marian wrote each item, underlining names and hours. She printed the petition packet, clipped it beneath ER, and penciled tomorrow beside it. For viewers of Crimson Heirs, she could have said nothing, yet the house insisted. Family drama stories hold when paperwork holds. The same scaffold steadies certain family revenge stories, turning porch whispers into a spine. She taped a to-do to the cabinet. Ring video, Mrs. Dahl, Blue Heron Lounge, sightings, clerk's office, filings, spare phone, activate. She clicked the binder shut, slid it into the bread box, and wiped the table. The clock found a brighter slice of morning. The plan was fully awake. One public act from Tyler would stitch the chain. Dawn had fully taken the kitchen when Marian moved from paperwork to safety. The binder clicked shut, the to-do list taped to the cabinet. Morning light widened. She swapped binders for phones. Harper's old device stayed on airplane mode, plugged to a wall cube, screen dark. Marian slid a prepaid SIM into a fresh handset, activated the number, and saved only essentials. Doctor, school, Mrs. Dahl. She set a new passcode, a duress pin 1 digit off, Face ID trained with and without glasses. Location sharing went to no one. Find My stayed on. Passwords changed. Email, cloud, banking, 2-factor to an app, not texts. Unknown callers silenced. Tyler and 2 of his friends blocked. Voicemail saved automatically. Screenshots stacked in a folder labeled Evidence. She scanned for trackers. The iPhone chirped a clean report. She emptied the key tray, purses, and floor mats, listening for any uninvited ping. Nothing but loose coins. Hardware next. Door jams wedged behind the back door and the laundry entry. Window latches tested with a tug. A cheap camera pointed toward the driveway. LED taped. Keys duplicated and taped under the planter. A go bag packed. Documents, a spare hoodie, medicines, a USB, cash, and a paper list of safe places. Church, 24-hour gas, precinct. She called the principal's line and left a measured message requesting leave. Calendar blocks, DV counselor, clerk's hours, blue heron check. A hand-drawn map of routes sat under a magnet, coffee cooled beside neat piles. The house sounded like a pencil on ruled paper. On Crimson Heirs, people learn how family drama stories hold because safety holds. That backbone lets some family revenge stories stand. Harper dozed. The new phone buzzed once and quieted. Footsteps on the porch. Mrs. Dahl lifted her phone. My ring caught something at 1:03. Mrs. Dahl's ring clip landed in Marian's inbox at 8:12 a.m. A.MP4 stamped 1:03. She thanked the neighbor, filed it under photos with a note, and slid the drive behind frozen peas. One more brick in the wall. Time for the public act. Careful steps, plain clothes, patient hours. By dusk, River Street breathed salt and diesel. Marian parked 2 blocks up, backed in, and walked the cobbles in a brimmed cap and a loose jacket that hid the phone lens. Neon from the Blue Heron Lounge bled blue onto wet stone. Across the way, the ferry dock's digital clock kept indifferent numbers. She set the camera to 4K, GPS on, flash off, live photo ready. She waited beneath a downed live oak limb that framed the doorway like a jaw. Bass thudded through the brick. Cigarette smoke wrote and erased itself in the river breeze. Marian breathed short, steady breaths and kept her finger poised halfway down on the shutter. Tyler arrived in a silver Chevy, the grill catching the street lamp. He checked his reflection in the window, then opened the club door with the back of his hand. Crystal followed, red dress bright as a buoy. On the threshold he cupped her hip, and she adjusted a strap with 2 taps of a fingernail. Marian's hands didn't shake. The phone did the counting. Click. Face, logo, clock, click. Hand on waist, her laugh, neon feather glowing. Click. Crystal's profile with the small star tattoo below her ear. Inside, Marian bought water, the receipt printed with 8:47 p.m. She photographed it against the wall clock that blinked minute by minute. Outside again, she kept to shade as the pair drifted toward the river, then back to the lot. The Chevy's plate read QJX 718. She took 2 angles, one with the ferry clock in background, one with the garage sign, level 2. Video ran for 8 seconds as Tyler brushed Crystal's hair and let his hand linger at the base of her neck. They didn't check for tails. They turned toward the riverfront inn. Marian stayed a doorway behind, catching them in the lobby glass, joined hands, his palm at her lower back, the bells ding as the clerk looked up. She did not enter. The frame was enough. At home, the files flowed into encrypted storage with tidy names. 2047 entry, 2058 receipt, 2106 plate, 2107 lobby, notes added, place, light, and weather. On Crimson Heirs, scenes like this often tilt family drama stories toward accountability, the hinge for certain family revenge stories, public act captured, now to see how the town whispers, and what his lawyer swings back with. By morning, the files from River Street sat in the binder under photos, 2047, entry, 2058, receipt, 2106 and plate, 2107 lobby, lined like tiles. Marian sipped lukewarm coffee and slid the USB back behind the peas. Public act captured. The house felt arranged around a task list. Outside, the market woke. She took the early walk for eggs. 2 vendors paused mid-conversation when she stepped to the stall. The clink of tongs against aluminum carried farther than needed. At the cafe counter, a rack held a weekly with a headline, "Domestic Drama on River Street." She photographed the masthead, the date, the line, and tucked the paper under her arm. Harper's new phone pulsed once. No caller ID, then nothing. Marian screenshotted the log and saved it to evidence. On the way home, 2 men leaned against a pickup, arms folded, eyes following until the light cycled. She changed streets, checked the mirror, and wrote the time on a note card at the next red. Back at the porch, an unmarked envelope had been pushed beneath the door. Thin paper, toner streaks, 4 words in a wide hand. Shut up or lose everything. She held it by the corner, photographed it beside the brass clock, slid it into a plastic sleeve, and added it to the binder. An email arrived from Ramsey Cole, counsel for Tyler Ward, a cease and desist letter alleging extortion and abuse of process. Marian printed 2 copies, clipped one under legal, and forwarded the message to the county legal clinic. The reply auto-acknowledged with a case number. She phoned the DV advocate, listed the morning's contacts, and asked for guidance on a temporary protective order and anti-harassment steps. The advocate outlined next moves. Keep logs, avoid response outside official channels, consider a stalking report if patterns persist. For viewers of Crimson Heirs, the lesson runs quiet. Family drama stories turn not on shouting, but on timestamps. Many family revenge stories stand because each scrap sits where a judge can reach it. Near noon, a private number rang again. A voice low and careful said she should check the clerk's office. A filing last week had Harper's name on it. The call ended with a short click. Marian circled clerk on the to-do in red. If that record was real, someone had signed for Harper, and the knot would show at the clerk's desk. Marian reached the clerk of Superior Court just after lunch, the hallway chilled by overworked air. A red number blinked above the counter. She pulled a ticket, sat beneath humming fluorescence, and opened the public terminal. Last name first, Blake Harper. A column of results narrowed to one line she did not recognize. Quitclaim deed. Grantee, Crystal Ames, LLC. The statewide index showed an instrument number, book and page, a recording fee, and a date from last week. She printed the index, circled the identifiers, and slid the page into a plastic sleeve under legal. At the window, she requested a certified copy. The clerk stamped a request slip, disappeared into the back, and returned with a packet. Description of property, acknowledgement by notary, submitter details. The raised seal left a shallow sunburst on the margin. The legal description named a lakeside parcel, wooded lot with a cabin and dock, matching the Lake Oconee address on Harper's old insurance. The submitter line read, Ward Title Services. The acknowledgement block carried a notary's name, commission number, and expiration date, with a signature that curved briskly across the page. She paid the fee, the receipt printed warm, ink still damp. On a bench by the map of county plats, Marian photographed the seal, the page headers, the instrument number, then scanned the packet to her encrypted drive. File names stayed orderly, 2243 index, 1251, cert copy, 1253/receipt. From the tote, she removed a photocopy of Harper's ER consent and an old insurance signature. Side by side, she drew a ruler across baselines. The H on the deed tipped forward. Harper's H always rose square. The loop of the P pinched on the deed, wide on the originals. Pressure lines thickened where the forger dragged downward. She took comparison photos with a gridded page behind them and saved the set as 1302 SIG compare. The index confirmed e-recording. She jotted the vendor's name, the submitter email, and the minute of upload. A quick directory search showed the notary's commission active and the business address overlapping a side office at Ward Motors. She underlined that twice. Strategy moved like a checklist. Draft an affidavit of forgery. Ask the court of the county where the land sits for a lease pendens to flag the title. Send a preservation letter to the submitter, the notary, and the title outfit. Keep every contact to counsel channels only. For viewers of Crimson Heirs, a quiet desk can be the loudest place. Many family drama stories turn on a book and page line. Some family revenge stories stand because a seal and timestamp hold. She slipped the certified copy into the binder, originals sealed in an envelope with a line of tape. A note card recorded instrument number, book page, parcel ID, notary commission, and submitter. She scheduled the legal clinic, then called the DV advocate to log the discovery and add property fraud to the narrative. On the way out, she paused by the bulletin board where notary names were listed on laminated cards. One familiar surname reappeared, printed in small caps. She photographed the bulletin board and the card, framing the wall clock above. If the notary talked, the chain might open at the first link. If not, Crystal Ames would be the next door to knock. She left the clerk's office with a certified copy under her arm and the notary's name underlined twice. The grantee line, Crystal Ames LLC, pointed to the next door. She chose a table on River Street where the awning camera watched and an exit sat close. She texted the DV advocate a live location and set 10-minute check-ins. The envelope rested a finger's width from the table's edge, logo facing out. Crystal arrived late, heels ticking, sunglasses at dusk. She paused at the host stand, scanned door, bar, and street, then drifted to Marion's table. A fingernail tapped the rim of her plastic cup twice before she sat. Marion slid the top sheet halfway into view. The quitclaim deed, raised seal catching the last light. The name Crystal Ames LLC stopped the tapping. "No speeches," Marion said, steady. "Just the order of things." She placed photos from the Blue Heron, threshold, neon feather, fairy clock, then the receipt with time, then the Chevy plate, QJX 718. Finally the lobby frame with his palm at her back. She did not push. She left space. Napkins ticked along the rail, nudged by river air. Crystal's shoulders lowered a measure. "He said it was just paper," she said, lips close to the straw. "Said he'd fix a share for me if I helped." She looked at the deed again. "I didn't sign that." "You didn't need to," Marion said. He filed a quitclaim with Harper's name, and a notary tied to Ward Motors acknowledged it. If the signature isn't Harper's, that's forgery. If you knew and stayed quiet, someone might try to drag you with him. If you tell the truth, you can stand clear. She nudged a card across, a legal clinic number, and a second for the advocate. No promises beyond safety and counsel. Crystal traced the grantee line with a knuckle. He said move the cabin fast before she made trouble. Her gaze flicked to the door, then the ceiling camera. He told me to meet the title guy behind the shop. I waited in the car. Marion unfolded a lined sheet, wrote the date, time, place, and left short blanks. "If you can put a sentence in your own hand," she said, "it anchors your truth." Crystal hesitated, then wrote. "Tyler arranged papers for cabin, promised me a cut, told me to keep quiet. I saw him meet a title man behind Ward Motors." She signed, printed her name, and added the minute from the cafe clock. Marion photographed the note with the wall clock in frame, then slid the original into a sleeve. "For Crimson Heirs listeners," she added, "family drama stories pivot on a line like this. Some family revenge stories, too." The advocate texted OK at the 10-minute mark. Marion replied, "Safe." Crystal exhaled, a long, careful stream. "Can you help me leave for a few days?" "Yes," Marion said. "Tonight." "We move now." Ink, a time, a place, enough for a subpoena. Next came the hearing and the protective order. Morning found them in a small courtroom, fan ticking. The bailiff called the case. Marion sat forward with the binder, Harper beside her, sleeve tugged over the faint bruise. Across the aisle, Tyler leaned toward his counsel from Ramsey Cole, thumb at his collar, heel tapping under the bench. Crystal entered by a side door and kept to the rear row. Judge Cervantes took the bench. "Proceed." Marion opened to the first tab. Photographs of the split lip and the darkened eye, each framed with the brass clock at home and the wall clock at Memorial, moved across the rail. The wristband and vitals sheet followed. M.D. Soto's note carried the line, "Possible domestic assault." R.N. Patel confirmed details by phone. The speaker crackled. Next came the ring clip. 1:03 a.m., porch, knocking, collapse. The timestamp glowed. Mrs. Dahl raised one hand from the gallery. A screenshot showed the threat. Open your mouth and lose everything. Initialed T. Objection on foundation. Overruled. The blue heron set played in order. Threshold under neon. The fairy clock blinking. The receipt with 8:47 p.m. The Chevy plate, QJX 718. The lobby frame where Tyler's palm rested at Crystal's back. Then the certified quitclaim deed with seal and book and page. Side-by-side signature comparisons landed last. Baselines aligned, loops contrasted, pressure lines darkened where a pen dragged downward. Marian presented Crystal's short, handwritten note, date, time, place, and a sentence naming the meet behind Ward Motors. The cafe clock sat in the photo's corner. Counsel glanced at Tyler. Tyler looked away. Requested relief, Marian said, voice clean and brief. Emergency protective order, no contact, no harassment, 300 feet, surrender of firearms, immediate suspension of the quitclaims effect, and permission to file lis pendens in the county of the cabin. Preservation orders to Ward Title Services and the notary. Referral to the district attorney for review of forgery and harassment. The judge's pen tapped once, twice. Noted. He read the order aloud. The bailiff carried copies to counsel and to Marian. Shoulders on the defense table lost height. For listeners of Crimson Heirs, this is where many family drama stories turn. The quiet cadence that also gives certain family revenge stories their spine. The gavel found wood. The room exhaled. Outside, sunlight polished the marble steps. Marian tucked the order into the binder and looked toward the hallway where Harper waited. Healing had its own calendar. That was next. The order rode home in the binder, a wall with a judge's seal. Weeks later, the house learned a new cadence. The calendar's reminders chimed. Therapy at 3, clerk follow-up at 5. The lis pendens receipt rested under a magnet beside a list of repair parts for a loose latch. Sunday sunlight pooled on the kitchen tile. Harper sliced apples into even moons, slid them into a bowl, wiped the board. Kettle steam curled against the window screen. Outside, Marian pinched the hose and watered jasmine until drops strung like beads along each leaf. The ceiling fan pushed a steady hush. Down the block, a mower droned then cut. On the fridge, appointment cards formed a tidy ladder. At the counselor's office, a pen clicked before notes. Harper listened, then tucked the next date behind her driver's license. She kept the phone face down. At the market, the egg seller shuffled a dozen forward, then smiled with his eyes. Two patrons who once stared now lifted chins in passing. Marian returned a short nod and moved along. Mrs. Dahl came by with banana bread still warm in foil. The gate yelped a quick squeak when she left. In the den, the binder lived behind a panel, metal cool to the touch. A new label stood out. Lis pendens filed. The spare USB stayed in the freezer, wedged behind peas. Evening drew a line of amber across the hallway. An email landed. Offer accepted. Harper printed it, slipped it into a clear sleeve, and set a skillet to heat. Pepper rattled into the pan. A spoon pinged the rim. Music low, windows cracked. The house breathed river air. At school, Marian set folding chairs in a semicircle and taped Hotline flyers to the bulletin board. Water dispenser centered, cups stacked. Parents arrived in ones and twos, choosing seats with space between. Marian wrote logistics on a legal pad. A mother traced the hotline number onto her palm. For listeners of Crimson Heirs, the strongest family drama stories often finish in small, steady habits. Sometimes those same habits are the quiet reply inside family revenge stories. Night gathered. Harper closed the windows and checked the back door twice. Marian slid the binder into the safe, turned the dial, and set tomorrow's reminder. In a frame on the bookshelf, Lake Oconee lay bright as a coin, dock straight, water ruffled by a light breeze. The kitchen clock ticked on the minute. Bruises had faded to pale maps. The house kept time, and the future waited its next page. If this story helped someone you know, please like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. 2 new stories await at the end screen.